you celebrating your aliveness, your beauty or mystery, curiosity, your essence, innocence, your passion, desires, night or daydreams, your body, this trillion-cell wonder, all your senses, outer to inner, your deep friendships, kinships, past to present, the sea, the land, the sky, the sun, moon, and stars, the natural world, its simple treasures, abundant wonders, the wild, your wilderness, your pure man or womanhood, your freedom, courage, wisdom, your life and singular life journey, the one you're on right now, your feelings of love, places of belonging, your possibilities and passages of becoming, the heart and soul of your whole, remarkable, irreplaceable being. All these dimensions so worthy of your embracing. All these gifts ever ready for your celebrating. Welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in and joining me for the 100th show in my ongoing weekly series, coming to you live from the sun and star-spangled coast of Rhode Island. This is the party for it, La Festa di Poeta, and this is your poet and poetorialist Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more poetically, more expressively, more soulfully. Broadcast 99 mused and marveled on the eyes, our windows on the world, the windows into ourselves, our souls, these remarkable gifts of such seeing, expressing, and revealing. This week, in the spirit of marking the making and presenting of 100 shows, a theme of celebration, celebrating this achievement and much else, from our best selves and the inner and outer joys we have or can find and feel in our daily lives, to our loving and evolving, from the beauty of the natural world to the universality of our human journey, our serendipities and possibilities. Amidst all else, maybe especially because of all the challenges across this country and the world these days, buffeting our equanimity, there's such a great deal we can each, and with others, raise a bright eye and spirit to, be glad for, pause to toast, honor, praise. The themes and threads of all my shows have been about embodying, expressing, affirming the wealth of what we are at our best and are graced to have and can be. So on this high note, dear listeners, let's begin celebrating right now with poetry, cultural commentary, and gusto. And by the way, the show image of me is me presiding over an extraordinary, immersive poetry on the plate dinner that I put together back in time, some years back. It was called The Table of the Gypsies. What a feast of all kinds that was. So that's why I chose that image for us. Well, let's begin with an ode to spring, newly unfolding, as it is, into the wild, green wonder. Under spring's wild blue wonder, we enter in its new and renewing green, enchanting us round parks and woodlands, ponds, hillsides, meadowlands, awakening us through all our years, all the ages of earth, all the pages of history, poetry, mythology, with its symphony of daring colors, its delicate flowering, its essencing of innocence, ecstasy of purest presence, beckoning us to fall once again into the wild, green wonder of its outstretched arms, like forever young and eager lovers. And let us praise the light. Do you love the light that gilds the late-day lines carrying conversations along the road between the poles, east to west, north to south, that underscores the undersides of gulls, wings outspread as they sail between the waves and wide ocean clouds, that bathes the upturned faces of shingled summer and gabled autumn houses, grateful for another rising morning, the lovely, love-worthy light. On a note of praise, I wanted to make sure we included the beloved praise poet herself, Mary Oliver, one of the greats, in my book. This is a very favorite poem. You may have heard it before, but I'd love to refrain it if you have. And if you haven't, give it to you for the first time. The Summer Day, Mary Oliver's poem. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thank you, Mary Oliver, for that. Yeah. And, thinking about what any such days of our lives freely offer us in those small ways, which can be very large in a form. That last line, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Well, that resonates with me every single day. Maybe it speaks to you. Feeling ever growing of our aliveness, not just aliveness, but growing it, because there's so much more capacity than most of us realize. Like we'd be even more alive all the time. It's also a purpose and practice for me, certainly, and part of what I seek to help catalyze in others. Some of you who know me know that, and if you're new to the program, you're going to know. Well, this is a blink. You open your eyes, just born. You're here, newly arrived, wildly, preciously alive, a bright body of energy, feeling, all possibility, a fresh canvas. Blink. You open your eyes, just awake. You're still here, newly arrived, alive decades later, a bigger body of energy, feeling, possibility now, a wondrous work in progress. Blink. Each moment is your moment to enter, open to, be wildly alive in. Bring all your energy, feeling, possibility to the heart and life art of here and nowness. Blink. Here's a quote from the Wisdom of Heschel. This is Abraham Joshua Heschel, new to me, but great quote. I'd love to share it with you. People of our time are losing the power of celebration. Instead of celebrating, we seek to be amused or entertained. Celebration is an active state, an act of expressing reverence or appreciation. To be entertained is a passive state. It is to receive pleasure afforded by an amusing act or a spectacle. Celebration gives attention to the transcendent meaning of one's actions. Well, let's not lose our power, shall we? Maybe we'll make an unbreakable vow to truly celebrate many things. From lifehack.com, Tova Payne, P-A-Y-N-E, what she calls the Celebration Project, simple ways to celebrate the everyday. Thought you'd enjoy this, thought it'd be apropos. I had just finished a project that kept me up day and night for months. After its completion, a friend asked me, "What have you done to celebrate?" Celebrate? The notion hadn't crossed my mind. I was about to run off to the next project. She helped me realize the importance of celebrating the accomplishment of a project's end. As I reflected on this, I saw the value in celebrating the everyday and figured we could all benefit from taking a moment to celebrate the little and big achievements in our lives. So I'm going to give you a few of Tova's thoughts on this. Start your day as a celebration. Take a few moments every morning to simply enjoy a few minutes over a coffee or tea and breathe in the aroma, feel the warmth, and enjoy the comfort. Give thanks for the day that's coming your way. Be aware of the micro achievements. Too often we take ourselves for granted. Just finished writing a challenging email to someone, take a moment and celebrate that you did it. Did you choose to spend your lunch break taking a walk and getting some exercise? Well, celebrate yourself for taking care of your body, and so on and so on. Celebrate others. When you do that, both of you feel awesome. When you celebrate someone else for the little things, they feel valued and be more inclined to help again. Can you relate to that? Do something out of the ordinary. We may not have the opportunity to celebrate big all the time, but every now and then it's healthy to celebrate a bit luxuriously. Celebrate every evening. Just as you begin the day in celebration, end the day celebrating and reflecting upon the day that's passed. That will add more richness to your day, warmth in your heart, and bring in more abundance for you to celebrate. Remember, celebration is an attitude. Well, thank you, Tova, for that. And I say take the time, cultivate that attitude, and see what transforms. There are so many slices of ordinary living to revel in, and why not? And there's also so much I wanted to share with you tonight, so I've had to restrain myself a bit. Otherwise, we'd be here for a much longer time. We could spend the entire evening together. But I've got many good things that I whittled it down to. But yes, the ordinary joys, like this of mine from Parsons Green from London back in the summer of 2013, morning shower. As cool rain falls from gray clouds onto the green garden outside a half-open window, warm rain falls from the sunflower mouth of the morning shower onto a grateful head, face, and shoulders, onto glistening hands that hold a French blue block of soap, rills down thighs, lithe legs, to summer brown feet, then water spouts away into the hidden channels of the old house. So just the joys of the shower or the bath, my friends. How about the joy of just receiving mail, letters and postcards from friends and family? I know it's rare these days, but when it comes, it makes it extra delightful. And I think of also the relationships we have or once had with the local postman and the milkman and others that came to our homes. Certainly I remember that as a child. This is, when I was spending some time in Morristown, New Jersey, there was this marvelous postman. He came, and I just loved seeing his face, regardless of whether there were letters from me or not. And this poem came to me, and I gave it to him, and he was just about to retire, and he was quite delighted I get it. It's called The Postman Delivers. Joy, 6 days a week, excluding Sundays and holidays, regardless of snow or rain or heat or gloom of night. A man with a smile forever licked across his lips, stamped upon his heart, as wide as the Philippine Islands he sailed from years ago. Shared happiness, feelings of sweet and simple contentment, arrive as his plucky white truck putters up the street to the red flag box in front of the house. As I wave, sometimes exchange ripe and ready hellos when home with this good-spirited fellow, this bonhomie postman who always so joyfully delivers. And I'd like to suggest on these lines and encourage you to praise everything lovely or delightful or helpful, however humble it is in your day-to-day life, even your bed. Elevate the experience if you haven't done it yet. This is the Great White Biscuit. I've read this in different programs for different reasons, but I said it belongs here today. The Great White Biscuit, as my brother styled it, and I love that description of the bed. So I used it for this poem. Our moniker for the mattress and box spring, the king-sized bed, the often enflowered bower of bliss we call the Great White Biscuit. Our life raft, our spacecraft, our deep sea bed where dreams swim and love is made, where old films play, where cats have curled, where we unfurl ourselves after a long day's journey into night. This bountiful broad billow of down and foam, the home plate where we slide, safe and sound. This comforting and comfortable layer cake for two. This soft and so delicious Great White Biscuit. So there you go. You can think about your bed in an entirely different way. You might have another name for it. I'd be interested to hear whether you've styled it something else. I even have friends who, out in Seattle, put Christmas lights all around the edge of the bed, like that. Talk about celebrating, sleeping, and dreaming. How about candlelight? Just candlelight. This is a poem of mine from Cobble Hill, Brooklyn. Luz de vela, candlelight. You, who bring such comfort to the darkness, spires of meditation to the stillness, who tenders light with simple gracefulness, you who dances on tables and faces, bedclothes and bath waters, who enchants the mind's eye to flicker back through rooms and nights, dinners and gardens, romances, remembrances of other moving candlelit moments, and glows on faithfully thousands of years and stories, and many a poet's heart-soft reveries later. O luz de vela. Langston Hughes as a poem, April Rain Song, and I was thinking, of course, for us about all the natural elements around us that can touch us so beautifully, so both literally and emotionally and otherwise. Langston Hughes, April Rain Song. Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain beat upon your head with silver liquid drops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby. The rain makes still pools on the sidewalk. The rain makes running pools in the gutter. The rain plays a little sleep song on our roof at night, and I love the rain. Thank you, Langston Hughes. Well, I have an honoring of the elements, and I think if I can, I'll just play it for you because there was a wonderful original musical score for it. A lovely composer friend of mine, Jacob Friedman, put together with me. See if I can cue it up here for us. The elements are here to connect us to the pure power and wonder of nature, its presence, its miraculousness. From the winds to the rains, the fiercest heat to the wildest cold, and to all the purely elemental, powerful, wonderful inside us, inside our bodies, spirits, imaginations. The forces of outer and inner nature that challenge and inspire us surround and speak to us, to every man, woman, and child among us. These elements, these firmaments of contrast and contest, of past, present, and humbling, ennobling energy. Well, there you have it. That might have been a little more voluminous, a little louder than I was expecting, but maybe that's just reflecting the exuberation of the 100th show. So if you dialed it down a little bit, that's okay. So you can dial this back up. We're not going to go to that volume again. Okay, so the elements, and I was thinking, of course, all different aspects of our landscapes, the trees we've seen, sat under, plucked fruit from, mused upon, in person or reading or looking at images. This was from old friends of mine, an orchard that they had in western Massachusetts one time back in 1999, actually. It was called Sunnybrook, their lovely home. 3 green graces. 3 ancient apple trees dance in the midday breeze sweeping over the lawn, and lift their summer skirts to show us silver linings. 3 green graces, long limbs sculpted by seasons of country time, joined in a circle, offering their lovely shapes and still lush tresses and centuries of fruitfulness. So, what is on the trees? Kenneth Grahame, the Scottish writer and Wind in the Willows author, if you're a lover of that particular story, that book, he spoke of the joys of walking in nature. Nature's particular gift to the walker, through the semi-mechanical act of walking, a gift no other form of exercise seems to transmit in the same high degree, is to set the mind jogging, to make it garrulous, exalted, a little mad maybe, certainly creative and supra-sensitive, until at last it really seems to be outside of you, and as if it were talking to you whilst you are talking back to it. Then everything gradually seems to join in. Sun and the wind, the white road and the dusty hedges, the spirit of the season, whichever that may be, the friendly old earth that is pushing life forth of every sort under your feet, or spellbound in a death-like winter trance, till you walk in the midst of a blessed company, immersed in a dream talk far transcending any possible human conversation. Time enough later for that. Here and now, the mind has shaken off its harness, is snorting and kicking up heels like a colt in a meadow. Thank you, Kenneth Grahame. I like that very much. Pablo Neruda, Water. Everything on earth bristled. The bramble pricked and the green thread bit. The petal fell until the only flower was the falling. Water is different, has no direction but beauty, runs through all dreams of color, takes bright lessons from the rock, and in those occupations works out the unbroken duties of the foam. Thank you, Pablo Neruda. That was translated by Stephen Mitchell, who's one of the great translators of Neruda. Consider. if you haven't already, how much is already around you, and even as I speak, as you listen or as you wake to your next day, is around you to savor, especially when you quiet yourself. This is be still and listen to what the earth below your feet is singing, to the stories the young and old swaying trees are telling, to the conversations of the hawks and the herons, the whisperings of the planets and stars, the jubilations of the sun, the rain, the ocean waves. Be still and listen with your spirit's ear to everything of note that's here, all ready to be heard. You may well already know how soothing, balancing, nourishing, quiet time in nature can be. I encourage you to relish every chance you get or can take to experience that. This is Wendell Berry's poem, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Thank you, Wendell Berry, for that. There was a moment, speaking of wild things, I was pure wild beauty. I was among a multitude of it in the wilderness sojourn that I did up in Alaska one summer, on a boat, small boat, and I'm going to celebrate that again here and pairing it with his piece, and how it made my own spirit leap. This was back in 2009. It was adrift off the Brothers, just a pair of islands in Frederick Sound, southeast Alaska. It's called Leaping. It's for the salmon. With natural exuberance, a salmon silvers out through the flat calm, head up, chest out, eye dilated, and breasts the water in stone-skipping succession, 4, 5, 6 leaps, shining and splashing its pink-dotted body through a spray of sun on water. Leaping. Well, let's raise a glass, if we can, if you have one, or donate imaginatively to happiness itself. Whenever and however happiness comes to us, to you, or through us, through you. This is Jane Kenyon's wonderful poem, Happiness. There's just no accounting for happiness, or the way it turns up like a prodigal who comes back to the dust at your feet, having squandered a fortune far away. And how can you not forgive? You make a feast in honor of what was lost, and take from its place the finest garment which you saved for an occasion you could not imagine, and you weep night and day to know you were not abandoned, that happiness saved its most extreme form for you alone. No, happiness is the uncle you never knew about, who flies a single-engine plane onto the grassy landing strip, hitchhikes into town, and inquires at every door until he finds you asleep mid-afternoon, as you so often are during the unmerciful hours of your despair. It comes to the monk in his cell. It comes to the woman sweeping the street with a birch broom, to the child whose mother has passed out from drink. It comes to the lover, to the dog chewing a sock, to the pusher, to the basket maker, and to the clerk stacking cans of carrots in the night. It even comes to the boulder in the perpetual shade of pine barrens, to rain falling on the open sea, to the wine glass, weary of holding wine. Thank you, Jane Kenyon. Rabindranath Tagore, keep me fully glad. Keep me fully glad with nothing. Only take my hand in your hand. In the gloom of the deepening night, take up my heart and play with it as you list. Bind me close to you with nothing. I will spread myself out at your feet and lie still. Under this clouded sky I will meet silence with silence. I will become one with the night, clasping the earth in my breast. Make my life glad with nothing. The rain sweeps the sky from end to end. Jasmines in the wet, untamable wind revel in their own perfume. The cloud-hidden stars thrill in secret. Let me fill to the full my heart with nothing but my own depth of joy. Derek Walcott has this poem, Love After Love, and it goes like this. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself, arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome, saying, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine. Give bread. Give back your heart to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Thank you, Derek Walcott. And may you feast on your lives and your life, each listener, all of you listeners, your dear selves, lives, and hearts. And let's toast as we go the amazingness of the heart itself. The heart is a remarkable thing. It can become sick over many things, over loss of faith or fortune, death of a loved one, dreams deferred, disappointments or disbeliefs, seeing suffering, then somehow, often miraculously heal, learn to reopen, sing, feel joy again. A 35 trillion cell wonder. Poem of mine for every single being alive, including all of you. A 35 trillion cell wonder. That's you. All those cells orchestrating with vast intelligence, a galaxy of processes, complexities inside your body, without you thinking, from your breathing to your blood flow, enabling you to laugh, make love, give birth, swim, dream, live, every moment. Talk about wonder. Ellis Sanders has this lovely book, Eating the Sun. Here's a piece of that. Depending on where you look, what you touch, you are changing all the time. The carbon inside you, accounting for about 18% of your being, could have existed in any number of creatures or natural disasters before finding you. That particular atom residing somewhere above your left eyebrow, it could well have been a smooth riverbed pebble before deciding to call you home. You see, you are not so soft after all. You are rock and wave and the peeling bark of trees. You are ladybirds and the smell of a garden after the rain. When you put your best foot forward, you are taking the north side of a mountain with you. Wonderful. Thank you, Ellis Sanders, for that. Well, absolutely, to me, vital to celebrate, to appreciate whatever bodies you have, whatever we have, are in our earth suits, as I like to call them, versus having no body at all, of course, to not let anyone keep us keep you from being the walking festival that you are. Eduardo Galeano, the Rwandan writer, had this piece, Window on the Body. The church says the body is a sin. Science says the body is a machine. Advertising says the body is a business. The body says, I am a fiesta. Thank you, Eduardo Galeano. Well, how could we not be also celebrating love in the heart of love? So I had a few poems of different mine and others to share around that. Gary Snyder's poem, After Work. So not just loveliness as we've been talking about, but love in all its best faces and forms. The shack and a few trees float in the blowing fog. I pull out your blouse, warm my cold hands on your breasts. You laugh and shudder, peeling garlic by the hot iron stove. Bring in the axe, the rake, the wood. We'll lean on the wall against each other, stew simmering on the fire as it grows dark, drinking wine. Gary Snyder, thank you. After Work. Ellen Bass's poem, When You Return. Her love poem. Fallen leaves will climb back into trees. Shards of the shattered vase will rise and reassemble on the table. Plastic raincoats will refold into their flat envelopes. The egg, bald yolk, and its transparent halo slide back in the thin calcium shell. Curses will pour back into mouths. Letters unwrite themselves. Words siphoned up into the pen. My gray hair will darken and become the feathers of a black swan. Bullets will snap back into their chambers, the powder tamped tight in brass casings. Borders will disappear from maps, rust revert to oxygen and time. The fire return to the log to the tree, the white root curled up in the unsplit seed. Birdsong will fly into the lark's lungs. Answers become questions again. When you return, sweaters will unravel and wool grow on the sheep. Rock will go home to mountain, gold to vein. Wine crushed into the grape, oil pressed into the olive. Silk reeled into the spider's belly. Night moths tucked close into cocoons, ink drained from the indigo tattoo. Diamonds will be returned to coal, coal to rotting ferns, rain to clouds. Light to stars sucked back and back into one timeless point, the way it was before the world was born. That fresh, that whole, nothing broken, nothing torn apart. Thank you, Ellen Bass. Wonderful. Well, coupled with love and loving is loving friendships and to celebrate, as I do, our friends, right? Your friends, my friends, the beautiful truths that I see and feel about them, often expressed in poems that you can express in whatever ways you can. And I'm suggesting if you haven't been doing it, you can start any time. So consider those friends that you love who've added so much to your world. I'm just going to share one of them at the moment here, just to keep us in time, is Rachel Menard. This was on her 52nd birthday, and this was in 2021, last year. So it's called Fancy Meeting You Here on Earth, all those decades ago. You and your sun-bright smile, moon-bright eyes, billowing heart, for the first time. Meeting all of you, all your radiance, eloquence, pure kindness then, and every time since. Never less than full of the same zest for living and loving, never being other than a best friend, faithful champion, and no matter the passage of time or change of place, always engaged and engaging, ever generously giving. Oh, I'm glad it was you. So glad it is you. Joseph Stroud's poem, Late Night, Year's End, doing the books with Tu Fu. Ghost fires in the Jade Palace. Moonlight a scattering of opals on the river. Over us, beasts of the zodiac march across the night. We drink cup after cup of warm rice wine. It's time to take out the ledger to figure the year's accounts. Tu fu, if our days and nights are the principal, if all the years are interest, then how much do we owe? If I subtract my grief from joy, what is left? Tell me, old friend, how does it balance? In one of your last poems you talk about the stars outside your hut, how impossible to count them. There are no numbers, you say, for this life. Who cares if we're in the red or the black? Add a few zeros and we're rich. Erase a few and we're poor. You're right, Tufu. Rich or poor, each night burgeons within us. The mornings open with sunlight. Why count them? Instead of numbers, let me enter words into the ledger, this account of our friendship, this little poem from me to you across the glimmering, innumerable years. I don't think we can ever celebrate anything more significant at the moment among all these other things than mothers, loving mothers. Can we do that enough? I don't think so. Well, here's a poem from Mother's Day 2018. On that note, mothers, for those who brought us here. Mary Cassatt painted many of them so beautifully. Juno and Gaia were two of more than a few bigger-than-life figures, mythic maternals, likewise Venus and Parvati. But those of flesh and blood, one and all, they were the ones who literally, or as ifly, birthed and bathed and fed us, did their best for us, the best they knew how, as we began to become. Some have gone, yes, yet never forgotten. Some are still here, still tending, to be endeared, even revered. Others reverse mothered. Some are newly arriving into maternity, discovering its marvels, its mysteries, and we, whoever we are, who came singing from and through them, can be glad, can be grateful. They made something so felicitous, so utterly miraculous possible. I was thinking, of course, of this celebrating the lovelinesses of our childhoods and parents, not just mothers and fathers, of course, and teachers. So I have this lovely Joyce Sutphin poem called The Farm on that note. And my father's farm is an apple blossomer. He keeps his hills in dandelion carpet and weaves a lane of lilacs between the rows and the jack in the pulpits. His sleek cows ripple in the pastures. The dog and purple iris keep watch at the garden's end. His farm is rolling thunder, a lightning bolt on the horizon. His crops suck rain from the sky and swallow the smoldering sun. His fields are oceans of heat where waves of gold beat the burning shore. A red fox pauses under the birch trees. A shadow is in the river's bend. When the hawk circles the land, my father's grain fields whirl beneath it. Owls gather together to sing in his woods, and the deer run his golden meadow. My father's farm is an icicle, a hillside of white powder. He parts the snowy sea and smooths away the valleys. He cultivates his rows of starlight and drags the crescent moon through dark, unfurrowed fields. Thank you, Joyce Sutphin. Beautiful, beautiful. And here's Pat Mora, M-O-R-A, Ode to Teachers. I remember the first day, how I looked down, hoping you wouldn't see me, and when I glanced up, I saw your smile shining like a soft light from deep inside you. I'm listening, you encourage us. Come on. Join our conversation. Let us hear your neon certainties, thorny doubts, tangled angers. But for weeks I hid inside. I read and reread your notes, praising my writing, and you whispered, we need you in your stories and questions, that, like a fresh path, will take us to new vistas. Slowly, your faith grew into my courage, and for you, instead of handing you a note or apple or flowers, I raised my hand. I carry your smile and faith inside like I carry my dog's face, my sister's laugh, creamy melodies, the softness of sunrise, steady blessings of stars, autumn smell of gingerbread, the security of a sweater on a chilly day. Ode to Teachers. Thank you, Pat Mora. Beautiful. Well, I think we'd be all the better to appreciate our aging and the wisdom of our true elders out there, and to stay open to their inspirations and their models of being. This is Mark Strand's poem, Old Man Leaves Party. It was clear when I left the party that though I was over 80, I still had a beautiful body. The moon shone down as it will in moments of deep introspection. The wind held its breath. And look, somebody left a mirror leaning against a tree. Making sure that I was alone, I took off my shirt. The flowers of bear grass nodded their moon-washed heads. I took off my pants, and the magpies circled the redwoods. Down in the valley, the creaking river was flowing once more. How strange that I should stand in the wilds alone with my body. I know what you were thinking. I was like you once. But now, with so much before me, so many emerald trees, and weed-whitened fields, mountains, and lakes, how could I not be only myself, this dream of flesh, from moment to moment? Ted Kooser, A Birthday Poem. Just past dawn, the sun stands with its heavy red head in a black stanchion of trees, waiting for someone to come with his bucket for the foamy white light. And then a long day in the pasture. I too spend my days grazing, feasting on every green moment till darkness calls. And with the others I walk away into the night, swinging the little tin bell of my name. Thank you, Ted Kooser. I have one more by him, actually, to follow that. Flying at night. Above us, stars. Beneath us, constellations. 5 billion miles away, a galaxy dies like a snowflake falling on water. Below us, some farmer, feeling the chill of that distant death, snaps on his yard light, drawing his sheds and barn back into the little system of his care. All night, the cities, like shimmering novas, tug with the bright streets at lonely lights like this. Thank you, Ted Kooser, for those two. From dailygood.com, things I would do differently if I were fully convinced I'm going to die. Eric Jones. I'm just going to give you two of them. I would almost certainly inhabit my body differently. Let it carry me around for the sheer thrill of it. Enjoy its self-maintaining, self-tuning, self-healing, self-harmonizing, orchestral humming amongst its tens of trillions of cells, plus all the fluid inside the cells, and the interstitial fluid, and not to forget all the ion channels, and miraculously facilitated crossings across all the walls and boundaries and borderlands between the trillions of insides and outsides inside our one body, and of makings and unmakings of origami-folded proteins with their hidden locks and their matching enzymatic keys, all performing with their fail-safes upon fail-safes, their redundancies upon redundancies, the miraculous machinery that ends at the dull tip of the spear that is my ordinary dissatisfaction with myself. And this one, I think I would go to the places where things are disappearing so that I could kiss them all goodbye before we both go. The barrier reefs of Australia, the polar bears, all skin and bones but still ferocious, or especially ferocious, the lobster fleeing Maine's waters for the cold of Newfoundland, the right whales so close to extinction now, their numbers smaller than a single high school graduating class, and the mountain gorillas, and snow leopards, and leatherback turtles, and then all the insects disappearing into silence, the thawing permafrosts of Siberia and the Northwest Territories, and the glaciers that are retreating what is likely to be their last retreat for the next 500,000 years or more. I would kiss them all goodbye for myself and my children and the great-grandchildren of the children half a world away I will never meet. Thank you, Eric Jones. That's from dailygood.com. Well, I have to tell you, I had lunch today with 3 delightful Italian gents who grew up together and are each near 90 years old, all going strong. John Tasca, Charlie Liguori, and his cousin Ed. I asked them today, so at these upper reaches of age, what do you most look forward to? And Charlie said right back, another year. Well, I had to share that with you because whatever moments we each may have beyond today, and no one can know if there'll be many or few, we can make the most of them while we have them. They're precious regardless. Take none of them for granted, my friends. And salute to the old-timers still full of sparks. Hope to see them again soon. So last handful of things. Joy Harjo's poem, Eagle poem. To pray you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing, and in languages that aren't always sound but other circles of motion, like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky and wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born, and die soon within a true circle of motion, like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. Thank you, Joy Harjo. Well, as you breathe in all the goodness and the beauty and goodness inside and around you and in your life, your days, may you also come to sing. Sing. Listen, create, speak, love, give, receive, celebrate. Sing in every way from your soul. I certainly just wanted to take a bow to being a poet and poetry, and of course at the heart of what I'm up to and what I also share through these broadcasts and elsewhere. And this is a poem of mine from the spring exhibition Behind the Curtain in 2018 that I launched. Then traveled around after that, around the country a bit. The poet writes poems about lovers and flowers, clouds and fjords, sun and moonlight, water light, eye light, shadows and buffaloes, bodies and melodies, the seas, the wilderness, ecstasies, about summer, color, waves and fauves, the land, the wind, about cities and eccentricities, memories and alchemies, gestures, atmospheres, sometimes stratospheres. He writes about soulfulness and earthliness, silence and presence, singing and longing, becoming, belonging. All poems about living and diving deeply into our days, into our wholeness, into our innocence, into our radiance. And I certainly wanted to underscore the continuous and vigorous celebration of our freedom and our freedom, as in freedoms, friends, are beyond precious freedoms. And when I wrote this some years back, I little knew how it would come to be challenged, to be compromised, and I want us, certainly I do, and want us all, if we can, to hold fast to it, to hold it dear and sacred always. It's nothing we can afford to lose. And but in the spirit of great celebration, this was a very dear German friend of mine, and she became an American citizen back then. And I wrote this in honor of her and presented it the day of her becoming a citizen. The lady smiled. For Ute Dugan. When you took your oath to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness today, the statue of the colossally copper-clad lady standing since 1886 at New York's door with her sunlit torch of gold smiled. And as she smiled, ships of all shapes and sizes and ages, especially ferries and tugs, blew whistles and horns sky high and bass low, and bells on bicycles and church towers from the Battery to Gramercy rang clearly and joyfully, all to salute you and your Declaration of Independence, your pledge to pursue the possibilities and great freedoms that come with being an American, that belong to us as citizens, who us among them welcome you today with broad stripes and bright stars. The lady smiled. Well, whatever else we have gone through as a world, as a society, or going through, there's certain things that endure and ever feed us and grace us. These are things for sure to celebrate. Centuries of winters, centuries of wars, centuries of civilizations and conquistadors have not stopped the tides from falling or the moon from rising, the beating of birds' wings or women's hearts, the heat of the day, the absolute silence of the stars. Do know this about your time here. Your time on earth matters. The thought and heart you bring to it, however fleeting or lasting, so too your place here, in the atmosphere you share with the ocean and children, doers and dreamers, and the shape you give to it. Behold your time, behold your place, see, celebrate, and greatly savor it. And dear listeners, think, if you will, of all the things to be greatly glad for, overspilling with that gratefulness for. Be glad. Be glad you're alive today. Be glad you could open your eyes, see and breathe today, could hear, taste, eat well today, could stretch your limbs, move your body, take in the softness of the clouds, the greenness of the trees, the summer breeze, and blueness of the sky. Be glad you could find joy today, find ease, feel loved and loving. Be beyond glad you could be present, so present to this day, to this life, to the world around you, to the whole world within you. And next to last, one more joy, Harjo poem, Praise the Rain. Praise the rain, the seagull dive, the curl of plant, the raven talk. Praise the hurt, the house slack, the stand of trees, the dignity. Praise the dark, the moon cradle, the sky fall, the bear sleep. Praise the mist, the warrior name, the earth eclipse, the fired leap. Praise the backwards, upward sky, the baby cry, the spirit food. Praise canoe, the fish rush, the hole for frog, the upside down. Praise the day, the cloud cup, the mind flat, forget it all. Praise crazy, praise sad. Praise the path on which we're led. Praise the roads on earth and water. Praise the eater and the eaten. Praise beginnings, praise the end. Praise the song and praise the singer. Praise the rain, it brings more rain. Praise the rain, it brings more rain. Thank you again, each and all, for leaning in, floating in, and celebrating in for this 100th live show, 100 strong. Much gratitude for the growing community of listeners that has formed around them, the steady appreciators and new discoverers alike of the power for good of the poetic arts and the inspirations these sharings and experiences have catalyzed out there. I'd also like to express my commitment to keep bringing forth new and newly engaging and enlivening broadcasts for you and fellow listeners far and wide, older and younger, across a world of places and future time these programs may sound through, and continuing to be a voice for living our days more poetically, more expressively, more soulfully. If you'd like to express added thanks for this show, or an earlier one, or all 100 of them with a donation, that'd be splendid, since they go to sustain all the full-on creating that I do every week. You can contribute by Venmo to fivefold@pipeline.com or directly through my site, thepoetorialist.com, in the Donate tab, or simply by mail to me at P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island 02891. Any patron who'd like to explore hosting me as a working artist, poet in residence on a given property for a given time, later this spring or summer or fall, to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to you, reach out and we'll discuss the possibilities. I also welcome invitations to be a virtual artist in residence, a poetic presence for an online community. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online, on YouTube, on the Floating Poetry playlist. I hope you'll lean in soon again. Until then, dear listeners, my keen-eared listeners, here's to celebrating all ways possible, life's great and small gifts, its endless wonders, and the gifts of best self we each bring to it, can bring to it. Not least our getting to be here at all, on Earth, this planet we all call home. Let's celebrate often, friends, and jubilantly. Goodbye for now, and bright spirits.